Hello, my name is Dean Charter. I'm Vice Chair of the Acton Select Board, and I'm Chairman of the Department of Public Works Building Committee. I'm here to talk to you about Article 7, which would authorize borrowing for the construction of new public works facility. There will actually be 2 votes required in order to move this project forward. The first one is going to be at the ballot in April to approve the borrowing. This would be a debt exclusion override, and that needs to be approved by a 50% vote. Subsequent to that, we have to go to town meeting and get a 2/3 majority vote to approve the borrowing at town meeting. I'll go into some details about the project now. So the existing building was built in 1969. It was originally sized at over 30,000 square feet, but due to financial situations, the decision was made to cut it down to 19,000 square feet. The building was barely adequate at the time that it was opened in 1969, and that was when we had a population in town of only 14,000, only about 80 miles of streets, and virtually no sidewalks. Since that time, we now have over 110 miles of public road. We've got 54 miles of sidewalks. We have many more public spaces, and we've got a very active stormwater management program, most of which did not exist in 1969. The building is in bad shape mechanically, structurally, and it's just undersized. This has been a high priority for the Select Board for 6 years to replace the building. Back in 2021, there was a feasibility study produced of the building. Select Board authorized a feasibility study committee to go over that study, and the determination was made that a new building needs to be built using some of the analysis that was done in the feasibility study. In May of 2023, I made a presentation at town meeting looking for design money for the new building that was backed by the Select Board. That was approved by a 3/4 majority on a clicker vote in the sum of $1,225,000 for design of the building. We've been advancing that design ever since then. The original building that was suggested would be 47,000 square feet, and we've since cut that down considerably, and we'll be talking about that tonight. So we get into some of the details. The current conditions in the building, I spoke earlier about it being undersized and in bad condition. You can see that situation. There's no locker rooms, adequate locker rooms. There are no facilities for female employees. We have a severe problem with sound and with fumes, and the migration of fumes from the work areas into the office areas and into the other occupied areas, plus problems with poor air quality throughout the building. There's also lack of proper storage for fuels, for toxic materials, not sufficient area for workshops to work on small equipment, and the mechanic spaces are all undersized. Public Works equipment has gotten larger and larger over the years, and what happens now is that many of the pieces of equipment cannot properly fit inside the repair bays and cannot be raised to proper height for maintenance. The mechanics bays, there are 4 bays with 3 mechanics working, are used not only to repair all the public works equipment, but also the fire trucks, the police cruisers, and many of the inspectional vehicles that are based out of Town Hall. Furthermore, there have been a number of mezzanine spaces that have been developed, other little storage areas created. Some of these areas are not properly sprinklered for fire protection. Most of those mezzanines do not meet building code or OSHA codes. As I mentioned earlier about very poor air quality, this picture here shows you what the air quality is on what I call a good day inside the mechanics bays. Looking at the numbers, we've been working very hard with value engineering from the original proposal. Back in November, we thought the new construction cost would be almost $38 million. We've managed to value engineer quite a bit of what would be considered not essential out of the building. And now the construction cost is just about $30 million. Then to that, we would have to add some of the soft costs such as the architectural costs, inspectional fees, equipment, what have you. So the original project cost in November was considered to be $47 million. Now we're down to $38 million project. So we think that presents a really good value to the taxpayers. There's just some conceptuals of what the outside of the building would look like. The building would be located in exactly the same location as the existing building. We'll have to evacuate the site, move operations to different locations throughout town during construction, and then move back in afterwards. The original plan was to try to keep operations going while we phased the construction of this new building, but it was determined that we could save quite a bit of money by moving much more quickly on this project, by demolishing the entire building and constructing it all at once. This is the floor plan. The problem that we have with the existing building is that we have so much equipment that's necessary for our operations. It takes a prolonged amount of time to park it and unpark it. Now the question's been raised, why do you need to park all the equipment inside? Well, a lot of the vehicles we have are diesel powered and they have to go out in very short notice at night. Usually 35 to 40 nights every winter. Some of those vehicles have to leave in order to deal with icing and snow conditions. The longer that it takes to get the equipment started and warmed up, the longer the delay is to get those streets safe. Also, starting a cold piece of equipment puts undue burden on the vehicle. And the vehicles generally last longer if they're parked inside. They're not exposed to environmental stress. They're not exposed to the UV light. Many contractors look at keeping a dump truck for 15 to 17 years. We routinely look at keeping a piece of equipment for 25 years. So we've saved money over the years by maintaining the equipment in a building, although it's much too small for the purpose. Also in the plan, we show an office area, which would be for the Public Works administrative staff, the engineering department. There are also some workshops and then the garage bays. What's the cost to the taxpayer? Well, based on the $35,200,000 price tag that we think is the appropriate number, average cost to the average household would be about $275 per year. The average condo would be paying about $160 a year. We think that represents good value. Further down in this slide, you'll see the cost of the building escalated year after year if we delay the project. Building costs go up by about 5% per year. So no matter what happens, if you wait 4 years, this building will cost you at least 20% more. And you can see the impact on your tax bill. This building has been extensively designed. We've looked at various assumptions for the heating and cooling system. This first base system would be for a gas-fired heating system. And we're using that just for comparison purposes. We could not, in fact, put in a gas-fired heating system in this building, but that would violate the stretch energy code, which was approved at town meeting overwhelmingly, that has forced all new construction in town to go to fossil-free fuel system. We also looked at using air source heat pumps, which are much more efficient, produce fewer greenhouse gases, but we still don't think that that's the right economic choice for us. So we're going to go with a ground source heat pump system. We'll have about 30 wells in on the site. That's, to put that in context, we have about 8 wells at the North Acton Fire Station, and I believe there are 67 wells in the ground at the Boardwalk campus site in West Acton. So we think that, again, this is going to be an environmentally responsible project. It will continue in our move towards going to all fossil-free fuel. And we think it represents the best cost analysis for the taxpayers. We do have some extensive information about the paybacks that all will be available and are all available online on the town website. This project has been backed unanimously by the Board of Selectmen. It's been overwhelmingly supported by the Department of Public Works Building Committee, and it has been endorsed for its environmental reasons by the Green Advisory Board. I hope that you will support this project. Thank you.